there's a misnomer, and people are like, oh, I'm in the cloud. Amazon takes care of that. That's AWS. It's like, no. What are you using Amazon for? That's going to drive what you're responsible for. What happens here when you start looking at cloud controls is it's different. There's a different set of responsibilities. So you have, if I'm a provider and I'm making a SaaS platform and I'm running it on AWS, I have a certain level of responsibility, okay? Amazon has a certain responsibility, right, for the controls, right, for the security, right? And they're really transparent about what these are. In fact, Google, Amazon, and Azure are really good about their transparency about what they do and what you have to do. Well, there's a misnomer, and people are like, oh, I'm in the cloud. Amazon takes care of that. That's AWS. It's like, no. What are you using Amazon for? That's going to drive what you're responsible for. There's more responsibility when you go one way than the other on either the provider or you, or even the user. So you could even be a SaaS platform and even have users of your platform sitting up here, and they have a level of responsibility that they have to adhere to. Now, when you're providing a SaaS, it's your responsibility to tell them, hey, this is what we do, this is what you're responsible for, right? Like, I'm maybe not necessarily responsible for the file integrity or the content of the information that you're putting on here. I'm responsible for encasing it, transmitting it, storing it properly and encrypted. But, if you put it on that system, then you turn around and lose it, as a provider, is that my responsibility? Is it Amazon's? No, so there needs to be kind of a clear delineation between who's the user, who's the provider, and then who's the cloud service provider. Soon-to-be graduates, for you guys to understand the technicalities, right, and those aspects, what that does, what controls that meets. But I think how you can differentiate yourself from other graduates is really understanding and being able to talk in this language and being able to say, hey, what we're going to implement is definitely going to suffice or satisfy what we want to do for us as a company because we're providing a SaaS, but we still have a responsibility to instruct and educate the user that they have to still go do X, Y, and Z. So there's no misgivings, right, by somebody who's buying your services to say, hey, I thought you were doing that.
Are there controls within that determine, let's say, like access control?
Yeah.
You have all these people within your organization. How do you determine who can do what? And if, let's say, a department does something bad,
right?
How does that affect the organization? How do you respond to it?
So what you're touching on is what's going to be considered risk management, right? And governance, okay? What happens usually inside of an organization is you start doing the work on the systems here, okay? And the rest of the organization is obviously using what's on the system, but the people have been going on about what they're supposed to be doing, independent of what you're doing. And now you're affecting some type of change, and it's not communicated to the workforce in some means, okay? When this happens, it means that there's a real disconnect between IT and kind of the organization as a whole, and it also means that there's not a clearly articulated risk tolerance or risk appetite for the org, right, to the users to even help you decide what do you allow for. So you kind of asked about a punitive question, like if one of these guys does something wrong, what do you do, right? Do they even know that what they're doing is wrong?
Right.
Chances are they don't. So what you'll find is a lot of organizations haven't clearly articulated, and this is not a security, this is what I love, this is not a security issue, this is not an IT issue, this is a business issue to solve for. Businesses need to look at, if I want to own the company and I have a number of different BUs, right, business units inside of my organization, and I have a parent, right, and I have a CEO that's up here, some CFO, right, executive level, like decisions are being made, and you have business units that are operating. Underneath that, you have corporate support services, right? Maybe you have HR, right, is one of them. IT is one. Legal is one. Okay? Security is down here, or maybe here. Okay? Well, what happens is, and then you got the user. The users are sitting inside of these BUs, they're sitting inside of corporate, whatever. The view is that, oh, it's a system that's being affected or being changed. The decision then must be sitting with IT, right? These guys must be making the decisions here. But you gotta ask yourself, when you make the wrong decision, who are the people that are screaming the most? It's these guys. Corporate. Which is right, because it's theirs, right? You're a support service to these businesses. You're enabling businesses, right? IT doesn't exist, but only to support the business. It's not the other way around. I think a lot of people in IT kind of forget that. And they're like, oh, well, we're the, why aren't they dumb users? Why aren't they doing the right thing? Like, what, why aren't they fun? It's like, they don't know. They're not IT guys. You are, right? They're not the ones who know this, nor do you want them to be, right? Because then they're encroaching into your job possibilities, right? But in this day and age, you're not going to have that. So what I've seen is that there's this shift that's needed, and it's just not happening enough, where you take risk management from being, hey, IT is doing it, to now, hey, there's a business unit, right, that's making a decision, or they're standing up some type of, risk committee. I have the worst handwriting, so me getting into whiteboarding was just like, that's why I try to stick to shapes and colors. But you're going to see, like, some type of executive level risk committee needs to exist. And what they need to do is basically say, this is the risk appetite for the organization. We are willing to lose X, right? We're a $3 billion company, right? A bad day for us, or the beginning of a bad day for us, is $5 million loss, okay? This isn't being done. So by bringing up that this needs to be done, right, now you can start basically giving the folks above you and the company the ability to allow you to operate in a much better fashion. Because now you can make a decision, right? You will come to some type of a number, right? The business will be able to determine that. In fact, we've done a lot of work as organizations and just companies to go through and say, hey, business impact analysis, disaster recovery, like we've figured all that stuff out. We've done that dance. Like that's, a lot of work has been put into that. Extracting that type of thinking out and all that information and driving it into a risk committee, or some type of risk decision group, that's what's going to allow you to now go, hey, this is our number, right? Now, let's say we've done this. Now you've got $5 million is the beginning of what your bad day is. That means you now have a threshold, which means anything below $5 million, you can accept as a risk. Anything above $5 million is what the business has now determined what their risk is. By having this, you can now turn around and understand if this system here is exposed to the internet, right, and it's storing a significant amount of customer data or some level of intellectual property is running on this box, and this system is impacted. Either its availability, its confidentiality, or its integrity. Did a little backwards there, right? The CIA, the triad, the availability usually be the first one that people kind of go to. If one of those three things get impacted, and that system's worth through those three lenses, or one of those three lenses, is above 5 million, that's a risk that you need to address.